Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of Sirhan on X, live from Cincinnati, Ohio, here in the United States. Hope everyone had themselves a wonderful 6th of February, 2025. Lots to cover here today. Uh, Actually, a warm and decent day in the daytime here. Hit the 50s earlier today, but now the winter weather's coming back a little bit. It's supposed to be back in the 30s. If you guys got to drive in this in Cincinnati, just pay attention to the weather conditions because I don't want to see people getting sick or catching colds in this weather. Uh, Lots to get to. Wonder, uh, all kinds of craziness, all kinds of sports. The NBA trade deadline, of course, Super Bowl week. Bengals fans acting up in a bunch again, and of course, the fallout of a fight that had no business taking place. I'll just get into that. That's my little bit of a monologue. Let's just I'll just go ahead and jump right into it here real quick. Of course, it's Super Bowl 59 coming up Sunday in New Orleans, Louisiana. It is the second time in 3 years the matchup between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, both teams, I thought throughout the week did their part. The coaches, the players carried themselves well during Super Bowl media week, despite some wild questions from people all over the place. As you all know, that always happens during Super Bowl week. Will Compton, being the coward he is, feels a need to get involved in Patrick Mahomes' business, which is why Will Compton is a coward. But at the end of the day, I thought both teams, went through the Super Bowl week real good. I thought they were both teams were real confident, real poised, especially the two quarterbacks, Patrick Mahomes of Kansas City and Jalen Hurts of Philadelphia. I think this game coming up is a lot of things you can divulge into. I mean, the Philadelphia receivers against Kansas's secondary led by Trent McDuffie. Uh, Kansas's receivers, DeAndre Hopkins and Xavier Worthy, going against Philadelphia secondary. That's not talked about enough. Because remind you, 2 years ago when Kansas City and Philadelphia met in the other Super Bowl, I don't even know who Kansas City's wide receiver number one was, and they still managed to put up 38 points on the Philadelphia uh, defense. Actually, really like 31. There was a fumble recovery return for a touchdown by the Kansas defense. I believe it was Nick Bolton, if I'm correct. Interesting matchups. I still think this is going to come down to two things. One, because the previous time, the Philadelphia Eagles couldn't generate any pressure on the Kansas City offensive front, especially talk about the interior with guys like Joe Tooney, Creed Humphrey, and Trey Smith, who just basically put the Philadelphia's defensive front on lockdown the previous time because they're going to have to generate some pressure to find a way to rattle Patrick Mahomes in some way in this game. Now, the second side, of course, is can the Kansas City defense slow down Saquon Barkley? I think the key here is going to be time of possession. I think the time of possession game would favor Philadelphia if they had Saquon Barkley running the way he has been running in the season and even in the playoffs, because it would keep Mahomes and the offense on the sideline. But I think it's gonna come down to again who makes the plays at the right time to win the game between these two teams. And it's a case of been there, done that. I think Kansas City is gonna make just enough plays, slow down Saquon Barkley just enough to where it's gonna come down to who do you trust at quarterback, Mahomes or Hurts? I mean, give me the guy that's done it 3 times in the last 5 years, that being Patrick Mahomes. I'm not going to predict a score, but I think you're going to see the three-peat complete this coming Sunday. I think Kansas City wins this one in a very, very good one. It's good. To me, this is a coin flip matchup. A lot of intriguing matchups. Actually, I like this matchup this year than I did 2 years ago because there's not more intriguing storylines. Of course, the sideline matchup: Andy Reid versus Nick Sirianni. I know Nick Sirianni has the most punchable face in the NFL, but the guy got his team here for the second time in 3 years, so you have to give him some credit. But for Andy Reid, a chance to make history, probably ascend himself to the ultra elite, all-time great coaches in NFL history. We talk about obviously guys like Bill Belichick, Don Shula, Chuck Noll of Pittsburgh, and even, of course, maybe the greatest one of them all, Vince Lombardi. He puts himself in that conversation once he gets the win. I know sometimes he drives Chiefs fans crazy with some of his play calling, but the guy is a mad scientist. He knows what to do in the big games, and I expect him to have this team ready and ready to go to complete the three-peat. I expect Kansas City to be the team to win. It'd probably be, I think, be like a less than a touchdown either way, but I still think Kansas City is going to make the plays to get the job done. I think it's going to be a better game, more intriguing than it was 2 years ago. I thought 2 years ago it was just a bit of a eh. But I think because of the intrigue this time, especially with Kansas City chasing history, there's going to be more intrigue this year. And I think they're going to complete the three-peat. It's going to be a good game. Of course, the story here is Jalen Carter got sick, or I don't know, today or yesterday. I don't know if he's sick because he's really sick, or I don't know if he's sick because he has to confront probably the best center in the NFL in Creed Humphrey. I think that's going to be an interesting matchup in the trenches on the offensive and defensive line front both ways. But give me Kansas City to complete the three-peat. I think it's going to be a touchdown difference either way. But because I have friends who are both Kansas City and Philadelphia fans, all I'm going to say is may the best team win and let us have a pretty darn good Super Bowl. That concludes my prediction. And of course, it was not 8 years ago that we had probably the greatest comeback in Super Bowl history. We call it the greatest comeback or the greatest choke job, however you want to diagnose it. Have at it. It was, of course, New England over Atlanta, excuse me. The 28-3 game. The Tom Brady throws a pick six, and it looked like Atlanta was going to run away with it. But gradually, they chuck away, managed to get the game into overtime after a wild, crazy catch by Julian Edelman. It looked like the ball's going to hit the ground, and he just snatches it up out of nowhere last second. And, of course, they go to overtime. Tom Brady gets the game-winning drive to get his fifth Super Bowl at that point. Of course, you can have it either way. That's why we always say there's always playing to win the game and there's always playing not to lose. And you had both examples of this with the Patriots and the Falcons, respectively. How are you going to be up 28-3 and just let the New England Patriots just run wild on you at that point? I mean, the defense basically just after the pick six just took the foot off the gas. The offensive play calling was egregious. Of course, who was the offensive coordinator there? Kyle Shanahan. What is Kyle Shanahan known for? Not being able to coach a team that's ahead. That's a problem. I mean, we had that here in the Super Bowl, and that's why it's carried over to him to San Francisco. Because remember the two Super Bowls Kyle Shanahan had against Kansas City as a member of the head coach of the San Francisco 49ers. Two 10-point leads, couldn't finish the job, and that's why they didn't beat San Francisco either time. Excuse me, beat Kansas City either time. So, of course, it started with this. Of course, I think after this, he got hired by San Francisco, and the rest is history. The middle of the arguably the greatest run of quarterback history in the NFL with Tom Brady, his fifth Super Bowl. But it was 8 years ago today. We saw it, the miraculous 28-3. We know that's going to be the joke for the lifetime. Greatest comeback versus greatest choke job. It's both. I mean, I don't think it's one or the other because it takes two to tango. There has to be a giver. If there's going to be a giver, somebody has to be the taker. The Falcons gave it, the Patriots took it, and they won Super Bowl number 5 on that night. I know Atlanta Falcons don't like to hear that, but I'm sorry, it is what it is. You guys are going to be the brunt of jokes for the longest time. Of course, you're still the brunt of the joke still with what took place last offseason where you signed Kirk Cousins and then, of course, drafted Michael Penix Jr. Of course, there's the hoopla there of Cousins making the comments that he said. Basically, he wasn't happy about it. We all know that. It just doesn't make any sense. But that's why the Atlanta Falcons are the Atlanta Falcons. And, of course, it started with 28-3 choke job. Now to the two Ohio teams for different reasons and wild circumstances because all of a sudden the fan bases of both are just all over the place for whatever reason. Now, all of a sudden, after the Myles Garrett trade, I guess now he wants to go to Washington, which I think would be a great fit. Put him opposite Dante Fowler. You got a nice defensive front there. I know they need an edge rusher, and I think Garrett fits. Now, all of a sudden, Browns fans just want to turn on him and say, T.J. Watt of Pittsburgh and Trey Hendrickson of Cincinnati were better edge rushers than Myles Garrett. It goes, I said this all along because it seemed like every day they want to put themselves on the limelight for this reason. I mean, over the last 3-4 years, there's always been this hoopla debate between Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, and Cleveland when it comes to the edge rushers, which I think all three are just the top of the food chain. I mean, Trey Hendrickson at Cincinnati, T.J. Watt in Pittsburgh, Myles Garrett in Cleveland. Throw a couple of others in there. Max Crosby with the Raiders, maybe Nick Bosa of the San Francisco 49ers got the Bills mixed up. Of course, Karlaftis, who's done a phenomenal job at Kansas City when they drafted him, among many others. But you guys really cracked me up in the Northeast. First, you wanted Deshaun Watson, and now you see the results of Deshaun Watson. You want to jump off. Now Myles Garrett, you put Myles Garrett over Hendrickson and Watt, and now that he wants out, you guys want to throw him under the bus. Okay, I don't get it. I've always said one thing about Ohio sports fans, especially in Cincinnati and Cleveland, they turn on you faster than a blink. I mean, if you don't give them what they want to hear, they're not going to like you. That's why both Ohio fans don't like me, because I tell it like it is, and they can't accept it. Look, Myles Garrett gave you guys phenomenal years. Now you guys trying to say it's all his fault. All of this happened when it was your fan base in Northeastern Ohio who wanted a quarterback to throw Baker Mayfield under the bus, forked out 3 first-round draft picks, and fully guaranteed the contract. And now you want to jump off saying you guys screwed up when you let Baker Mayfield walk for the Deshaun Watson trade. It's something we all told you for the last 3 years when it happened, and you didn't want to listen. Now you want to listen after the fact. Congratulations for being so far behind the 8 ball. We can't see you out of our rearview mirrors because we warned you in advance what the result was going to be, and you guys couldn't accept it. I'm sorry. I love Myles Garrett like everybody else, and I think he gave you guys some major defense respectable and made you one of the better guys to don the Cleveland Browns uniform, especially on the defensive side, because you don't have much of a history on that side. I mean, real history to me was Jim Brown. But to turn your back on him and say basically TJ Watt is better or Trey Hendrickson was better 3 years after you guys were basically spewing insults at Steelers and Bengals fans in this edge rusher conversation, and now you're going to turn on him? What gives? I mean, good luck in 25. Good luck in 26, because you still have to eat Deshaun Watson's contract. Excuse me. And where Myles Garrett goes, he's still going to make an impact. He's still going to be an impact edge rusher. I mean, he said he wanted to go to Washington. I know they're talking about Detroit. I don't know how that's going to work. I know Buffalo and Philly were among the favorites. I mean, I could see Buffalo opposite Greg Rousseau, him opposite Greg Rousseau. I think would be a solid edge rush tandem. And you know, Philly's defensive front, and Myles Garrett to that, they're going to be tough. Myles Garrett is still an elite level edge rusher, and you guys were so passionate on defending the guy. Now you guys are passionate to throw him under the bus. What gives? I mean, I quit trying to understand you guys in the Northeast. First, you guys backed a sexual predator after you got him 3 years ago, and now you threw him under the bus. Congratulations. You went all in. It backfired in your face. You just can't accept reality, the fact that we warned you 3 years ago what the result was going to be, especially fans in Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, and Baltimore. We all warned you. Actually, even Houston fans told you what Deshaun Watson was made of. And because of all of that, that's why Myles Garrett stuck to his guns and says he wants out. And can anybody blame him? Good luck, Cleveland. Good luck. Now to the one here in Cincinnati, because Bengals fans, once again, have, I could speak of some words of how I could describe them, but I'm not going to use a platform for it. They're in full-time happy mode. And I mean full-time happy mode in grotesque ways. Because every time they see Joe Burrow on TV, they act like that's the greatest thing they've ever seen in their lives. Because everybody knows how I feel about Bengals fans here in Cincinnati. I scolded them after the fiasco week 18. You know the story there. They're overreacting again because Joe Burrow has come out and basically trying to play like GM at all these shows on First Take with the moronic coward Kay Adams, among many others. I think he was on with Craig Carton earlier at the Fox show. I can't remember what it is. Trying to vouch for the Bengals to keep Jamar Chase, Trey Hendrickson, and T. Higgins. I mean, and of course, Bengals fans, all the gullible morons here in Cincinnati that they are, fell for it. Until my 2IC changes will be made, I'm not buying any of it. And the problem is always said, the reason why you went 9-8 the last 2 seasons were the Bengals fans, the Bengals media members, and the Bengals content creators on these platforms. They're the reasons why this happened. Why? Because you fall for anything and everything you read, anything and everything you hear, anything and everything you see. That's why I pause every time I listen to anything, simply because I've learned a long time ago anybody that says anything in front of a camera is for narrative purposes. And I'm not going to accuse Joe Burrow of, being fulfilling a narrative need when he was on these shows today, because I get it from that perspective. He's backing his guys. And he basically said he wants his guys to stay. We get it. I mean, I would love to see them all stay. I mean, I know who did. But you guys, and I said all along, when it comes to these Bengals fans, these so-called super fans, and these media people and content creators like Kelsey Conway and Kay Adams, just to name two of them, Chris Rowling being the third. Why do you guys feel the need to fall for every narrative and make a story out of it when you don't even know the facts or what's going on behind the scenes? I mean, are you guys on the Bengals payroll? I don't get it. But as far as what Joe Burrow says, I do agree on everybody on one thing when it comes to what's going on here. If you don't do anything within the next year or two, this is going to be Carson Palmer all over again, because I can assure you Joe Burrow is going to want out. Because I saw him on the Dan Patrick show this morning before all of this, and he looked like a guy that just wants to put a team together and actually start winning games right now. I think individual accolades are out the window with him. He wants to put a winner out here, and he wants to do it with what he has right now. He thinks he's close. I don't think he is. I mean, they still have to deal with Baltimore and Pittsburgh twice a year. But he wants to build a winner here. He's putting the pressure on a front office who has always basically tucked their tail between their legs when it comes to player negotiations. And that's been proven here in Cincinnati for the longest time. But until my two eyes see it, I'm not believing anything out of anybody. And that was why fireworks were set at me when I unloaded on you guys in the season finale. You guys try this ignorant stuff, trying to accuse the Kansas City Chiefs of quitting against the Denver Broncos when you didn't even deserve a playoff spot to begin with. My two eyes will be the dictator. Nobody's social media posts, nobody's mouth, nobody's radio shows, nobody's TV shows, and not even a moron like Kay Adams who has no leg to stand on when it comes to this. I'll be dealing with this more in the offseason. And speaking of the NFL, I'll wrap the NFL segment up with this. News came out yesterday that one of the leaders of the NFL Players Association said they don't back they will not approve an 18-game regular season like Roger Goodell said he would. Don't lie in front of a microphone, because we've seen your act before. You never gave a darn about player safety then. Now you're going to act like you give a darn when you never have. Please just shut up, because we keep caring about anything you guys say for the longest time. We know there's going to be an 18-game regular season, and you guys were talking about 2026 having a game in Australia. Now there's rumors you're going to have a game in Ireland. And you act like you don't want an 18-game regular season because you cared about player safety. As Chad Johnson would say, child, please. Because we've seen the act. We've seen your little shebang. My eyes seen it. I read it. I can read through you. We're not fooled. I'm not fooled. We know there's going to be 18-game season coming soon. Roger Goodell is going to present the proposal to you, and you guys are going to accept it. You guys are going to have a game in Australia. You already accepted that. Now they're talking about having a game in Ireland, where this whole NFL international thing has just gone completely berserk, and I think it's just out of control. But spare me your hypocrisy. Spare me your lies, because I'm not buying it, and I don't think anybody is. Everybody knows we're going to have an 18-game regular season soon. It's going to come down to how you're going to manage it, because at the press conference a while back, Joe Burrow said it best. You're going to have an 18-game season, better have a second bye week. That's what it comes down to. We're going to have an 18-game season. No need to lie in front of a mic, you guys over there, the Players Union, because I know you guys are filled of moronic, spineless idiots and morons over there. And anybody with a functioning brain knows you're lying when you said you don't approve of it. When the proposal's going to be given to you, you're going to approve of it. We all know this. Don't try and lie on a mic, and don't try to hide behind the camera. Don't think we're going to see it, and we don't know the truth. Good luck to you guys. Now to the NBA. The trade deadline is basically come and gone, but the wildest trade that took place was Jimmy Butler to Golden State. And I guess a bunch of parts going all over the place. Biggest one is Andrew Wiggins to Miami. We know the Jimmy Butler-Miami relationship just soured for whatever reason. For 1 minute, he said he wouldn't sign an extension to Golden State. He wanted to go to Phoenix, and I guess they were trying to get a swap Jimmy Butler for Kevin Durant, rumor-wise. But I guess Phoenix wanted Miami to pony up more than what they were willing to give. And Miami said, no way, we'll just send Jimmy Butler to Golden State. So he goes to Golden State. And then what we have here is moving parts moving all over the place. Andrew Wiggins to Miami. I think Kyle Anderson went to Detroit, I believe. Another moving piece here. 3-4-way trades, I think, is just moronic in the NBA, but I get it. NBA trades is more about not just moving players, it's moving contracts because it's a dollar for dollar thing. I guess it's like 125% over the cap. And of course, the luxury tax apron and that baloney. But for Jimmy Butler and Golden State, question I have is going to be, when are we going to see the first Jimmy Butler Draymond Green fight in practice? Because that's coming. Two hard-head personalities like that, who not necessarily the most team-friendly guys in the world. I mean, Karl Anthony Towns just dumped on Jimmy Butler when he left Minnesota a long time ago. So we're going to see the first Draymond Green Jimmy Butler fight. That's coming because if Draymond Green's going to be sucker punching guys like Jordan Poole, I wonder what he has in store for Jimmy Butler. And I say this: I don't think Jimmy Butler is going to take it, and I have it, and he's going to come back and counter it. And it's going to be an interesting clash of egos between those two. And I know at one point they were talking about putting Draymond on the block, but that never materialized. Of course, there's this rumor that Kevin Durant might have gone back to Golden State, and he shot it down. Don't know how interested that is. But a lot of this NBA trade deadline is more about, the dollars, the contracts, and for teams in the luxury tax apron like the Bucks who made some salary dumps. Because unlike the NFL, where you can just trade for draft picks and get a piece that helps, in the NBA, you're not moving players for help. You're moving contracts to get out of salary cap hell, get out of luxury tax hell. And that's what happened in the last several trade deadlines. I can't say it's true with this because we know the situation with the Miami Heat and Jimmy Butler just went way away and just very, very soured. And of course, Jimmy Butler publicly said, I want out. I don't know what this trade is going to do for Golden State. I mean, I know they got to start off good, but then they plummeted. And I know Miami's going to probably just try to get one of those mid-level draft picks in the teens range to try and get a piece to start this thing from scratch because I think they needed to after going to the finals 2 seasons ago when you basically went to the finals largely because the series against Milwaukee, Giannis was hurt and you just milked it. And you got dog walked by the Nuggets in that finals, and he didn't do much in this last season. I don't know where he stands this season, but it was time to blow it up and do the whole thing from scratch. And I think the mindsets of guys like Pat Riley and Eric Spoelstra down in Miami, they're going to get that thing turned around real quick, you would think. I mean, you do have Andrew Wiggins. I think is still a formidable player, is going to help out, but they're probably going to get an impact player and get that thing turned around soon, hopefully. Because I know Pat Riley and Eric Spoelstra wouldn't tolerate a losing culture over there. They built a culture, actually going back to when Pat Riley left New York to Miami in 1995. That culture stayed for the better half of 3 decades. We talk about during that time, multiple finals appearances, 3 NBA titles with the great Dwayne Wade. And I expect them to get a marquee player and get this thing turned around here real soon. Probably it's going to take a year or 2 of a downturn. I'm sure Pat Riley and Eric Spoelstra knows this, but I expect them to be back here soon, especially in the Eastern Conference, where aside of maybe 2 or 3 teams, there's a lot of question marks all over the place. I never thought I would have shows I'm talking about the NBA again. I stayed away from it for the longest time. Now to boxing. And this is where I'm going to unload here a little bit on a bunch of really all of you morons over here. I mean, everybody. Nobody's exempt from me today. No one. We have people bitching about the Canelo Alvarez Terence Crawford fight being canceled. First of all, I never thought the fight was set in stone. If you really thought the fight was set in stone, you guys are a bunch of you guys are gullible right now, just like NFL and NBA fans when it comes to these social media platforms. Second of all, there's a lot of accusations who's ducking who. How the hell is one guy ducking the other when both guys are 2.5 divisions apart? There's no real ducking going on. I mean, if one person was ducking the other, I mean, 2 divisions apart, I guess you can go ahead and say Tank Davis is ducking Naoya Inoue. Let's put that out there to see how stupid you guys look when you guys accuse one person of ducking the other. I mean, I'm talking about both Crawford fans and Canelo fans because I'm a fan of both. I'm a fan of both equally. Did you see me talking about this fight? No. Why? Because it made no sense for it to be happening in the first place. 2 weight classes apart. You guys wanted to see this fight. And now you guys, using your platforms to down the other, whether it be Crawford fans bashing Canelo or vice versa, without a leg to stand on. I didn't even took this fight seriously, even though Ring Magazine, wherever the frick those morons over there in Saudi Arabia want to call it, said it was agreed upon. Now you guys are trying to accuse Canelo Alvarez of ducking Terence Crawford so he can pursue a fight with Jake Paul. Well, first of all, is that fight even set in stone? You guys try to pop up quotes from Eddie Hearn. Eddie Hearn's not even a credible person in the boxing community. That doesn't do me justice. I can't buy it until my two eyes see signing an official date that we're going to get Canelo Alvarez and Jake Paul, not one cropped up by you guys sitting behind a laptop making all kinds of funky photos on Photo Room or on those stupid photo apps. A legit offer, I'm not entertaining it because I doubt wholeheartedly this fight's going to happen because Jake Paul's going to have to do a massive weight cut. Now, I said all along, I'd be fine with a Canelo-Jake Paul fight if it's Canelo's last fight, period. If it's Canelo Alvarez's final fight of his career, I'd be fine with him cashing out on a fight with Jake Paul because, it would be a financial bonanza where Canelo could cash out and just get out. Why are we getting these accusations of Canelo Alvarez ducking a guy who's 2 divisions shorter than him? And why are people, even the Canelo fan base, accusing Crawford of ducking a guy who's 2 divisions higher than him? And now we have people saying Canelo Alvarez should be dropped from the pound-for-pound ranks when he fights Terence Crawford, or Jake Paul, excuse me. Problem is, I don't even have Canelo Alvarez on my pound-for-pound list. I always keep mine to the top 7, not top 10, because 8, 9, and 10 are guys that are just names to throw to make your list look good. I mean, I don't put Canelo over Alexander Usyk. I don't put him over Naoya Inoue. Bam Rodriguez, that's my top 3. My 4th is Utter Better Beef. My 5th is Jaya Pataya. My 6th is Junto Natakani. And I just leave it at that. That's my top 6. That's all that matters right now. Because actually, my 7th is Terence Crawford. He's down because he's only fought 3 times in the last 4 years. Inexcusable. The guy's not even on my pound-for-pound list, and you guys talking about knocking him off a pound-for-pound list. I mean, he's not even on mine, so spare me your hypocrisy. I don't even care about the pound-for-pound list, and I just give you my 7. He's not even in that, because the rest of it, the other guys in there on that list, nobody is relevant or existing. Those are the top 7 that matter to me right now. Usyk, Inoue, Rodriguez, Better Beef, Opataya, Natakani, Crawford. That's my top 7 in that order. You have a problem? Feel free to come to me. I'm glad to have a conversation to your face because your criteria for your pound-for-pound list are absolutely ridiculous and grotesque. You guys need to start straightening yourselves up a little bit here. But back to this fight, there was no ducking going on because this fight was actually talked about taking place in September. Why are people bitching about a fight that's taking place about 7.5 months from now? It was originally scheduled. Can you guys just chill out for a minute? We have other fights to worry about. We have Keyshawn Davis coming up. We have the Better Beef Bebo winner rematch coming up. Worry about those instead of worrying about what the hell somebody else does. Because otherwise, you're not even a legit fight fan or one of these moronic fight content creators over here who's just spewing garbage to try to get me suckered in when I won't bite the bait. Plain and simple. And of course, I like to conclude my fight coverage with a historical moment because people here don't want to partake in it. Somebody needs to put you guys in place a little bit, and I'm going to have to spill this one out. This one is a case 58 years ago where someone's mouth got him in trouble. This was a fight between Muhammad Ali and Ernie Terrell at the Houston Astrodome in Houston, Texas. This was actually this was a time when the 1-belt era became the 2-belt era, which I didn't have a problem with. Terrell was a champ, won a title, made 2 successful title defenses, came off a solid win over George Savallo. Of course, the greatest Muhammad Ali continued his run as the heavyweight champ after he upset Sonny Liston 3 years before. And at that time, the greatest upset, February 25, 1964. Story here, of course, we know the story with Cash. He was Cassius Clay. He went to Muhammad Ali. We know the reasons for it. I'm not using the platform for it because I don't divulge in religion or politics. I try to respect everybody's views on it. But of course, the whole thing started up because Ernie Terrell refused to call Muhammad Ali by Muhammad Ali. He called him by his original name of Cassius Clay. Terrell was a solid heavyweight, big heavyweight, long arms. He was a 6'6" heavyweight, maybe you can say he was a little ahead of his time because 6'6" heavyweights with decent ability like Terrell had were a dime and a dozen. A very sound heavyweight. I mean, some solid wins. I told you, beat George Savallo earlier before. He basically pummeled the great Bob Foster, just basically beat him all over the place, stopped him in 8 rounds. He went to this fight, he wore a belt. Ali had the other belt, and there was basically a 2-belt unification. Winner was going to be the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world at a time when the heavyweight championship of the world was the premier prize in all of sports. Basically, the story here was Ali was just Ali. Terrell just had no chance. Basically, Terrell just shot his mouth off, and Ali just let him have it. Actually, there's a photo on these social media platforms. If you Google Ernie Terrell, you see both eyes were messed up after the fight. And basically, Ernie Terrell just got the beating of his life. Ali wins the 15-round unanimous decision to unify the heavyweight championships. Terrell was basically never the same. Got a couple solid wins, but never got to that level. We know the story with Ali, the 3-time real heavyweight champion of the world, not fake belts like Daniel Dubois has, but 3 times the real heavyweight champion of the world. This is a perfect case of when you shoot your mouth off, you get exactly what you deserve. Ernie Terrell did a lot of that with Ali, and he got exactly what he deserved. Not a slight on Ernie Terrell. He was a very solid heavyweight. Maybe if you talk about the 70s heavyweights, if you talk about a top 10 ranking of guys at the heavyweight division, guys that fought in the 70s in that top 10, Ernie Terrell was on it. In the 60s and 70s, excuse me. He was on it. He was a sound heavyweight, did manage to win a belt, and had some nice wins. I mean, outside of this, and after this, he never got to this level ever again. But he was still a sound heavyweight, and Ali needed to win like this because we know what happened shortly thereafter, the vacating of the belt because of reasons. But Muhammad Ali just took it to the next level on Ernie Terrell 58 years ago today at the Houston Astrodome. Just gave Ernie Terrell both a boxing lesson and a beating. And a lot of people, and of course, it was during the fight, it was later revealed, Muhammad Ali said countless times, even Ernie Terrell confirmed it, Ali kept saying to him, "What's my name? What's my name?" Of course, before the rap song Snoop Dogg brought out in 1994. Ali just said it to Terrell's face because Ernie Terrell still kept calling him Cassius Clay. Ali wouldn't have it, and he just gave Ernie Terrell the beating of his life. Terrell was a solid heavyweight. I got to give him his due. I mean, he fought a lot of solid guys. Didn't quite get to that level. He did win a championship, but after this fight, he wasn't the same. And we know the story with Ali. Boy, I wish we could go back to the days when the heavyweight championship of the world was the glamour prize. But since we have fake champions like Daniel Dubois with the belt, it's not even worth talking about. Because I said all along, I said this in a recording, it's going to be coming up here in the next couple of weeks. The governing bodies have just ruined the significance of championships. And we have a bunch of you morons in the boxing community, even the ones I like, I talk to, and I follow, who still don't get it. You guys put more emphasis on governing bodies than you do fighters. You guys still think belts make the fighter. It never was the case, never has been the case, never will be the case. Maybe time for you guys to just chill out when it comes to belts and just worry about the fights in hand, because we're lucky to be having fights right now. I mean, you guys would complain about not having fights in America, having fights in Saudi Arabia or whatever. Just be happy we're at least having fights and quit worrying about the who's, the what's, the wins, the where's, the A side, the B side, the dollars, because you're not even a fan at this point. If you think that, you guys are just absolutely off the walls right now. And some of you guys I might have to give a stern talking to, because I don't give credibility to governing bodies like you guys do. Do you see me mention governing bodies in my shows? No. Do you see me putting governing bodies in my tweets? No. You guys need to stop it. You guys need to stop worrying about belts. Quit worrying about how much a fighter makes. Just be happy we're getting fights. If you don't like the fact we're getting fights, follow ballet or something, because that's where you belong. Plain and simple. Never thought I'd have to get in my show, just have to bash people who I like a lot. But some things need to be said right now in the boxing community, because all you guys are falling for anything and everything possible. And that's why I just sit back and just look. Who's a credible source? Where's a reliable source of information you're getting this from? I don't want to hear about some moron named Bat from Brunch and Boxing, whatever that moron's name is, because he has no credibility. And forget Dan Raphael. He's an overweight racist coward who you shouldn't even listen to. I don't know why you guys partake in listening to him. And of course, there's guys like Al Bernstein and Lou DiBella, I mean, I know they can be different in their own ways, but I at least respect them. I go to them for my boxing coverage. Make sure you know who your source is when it comes to your boxing coverage, because if you go into someone who has no credibility on it, you're going to look bad at the end of the day. That's why I stopped dealing with the piss ants, whoever involves themselves in this. Like what the guy's name, I can't think of his name, Buzz Alt or whatever the frick his name is. The guy who still tries to say Ryan Garcia didn't cheat when he beat Devin Haney, despite the results. Just do better, everyone. Just do better and do smarter. We always say, work smarter, not harder. You guys in the boxing community need to start doing that. Oh, I never thought I'd have to have a rant where I had to talk about my fight followers much. A lot of you guys I love to the moon and back, but please do better. And that'll wrap up this edition of Sirhan on X. I will be off for the next 3 days as I am back at the daily grind. At 8 o'clock, I will be joining a group on the NFL Gridiron to talk more about the Super Bowl. Bunch of group people there. If you guys in the NFL community, you're more free to join us. I will share the link on the X platform. And as always, as I wrap it up, I always tell this to everybody equally, no matter who loves me, who doesn't. Always make self-care your number one priority. If you don't take care of yourself first, nothing else matters, because you got to take care of yourself first. If you do that, good things in life follows you. I don't learn it the hard way myself. It basically I had to close doors on people I loved, maybe close doors on people who I didn't want to walk away from, but I've learned a lot, and I learned it the hard way. Just make self-care your number one priority, and don't let people treat you as their priority when in their minds you're just an option to them. Good things will follow in life if you do that. And that'll wrap it up. Hope everyone has themselves a wonderful rest of the 6th of February 2025. I will be back Monday night. And a very special reminder, on this coming Tuesday night at 6 p.m., I will relive the greatest upset in sports history and talk about how it stacks up among the all-time great sports upsets. Mark your calendars, because Tuesday night we're going to have a blast. Good night, take care, and God bless.